Tesla, BYD, Toyota. They dictate who shapes the future of electric mobility. No one expects a challenger from the Sahel. But in January 2025, a 36-year-old captain who seized power in a coup opened an electric vehicle factory in Ouagadougou. His name is Ibrahim Traoré, and he is betting Burkina Faso can electrify Africa's future without asking anyone's permission. The brand is Itaoua. It promises 330 kilometers of range, a 30-minute charge, and a price in the low thousands of dollars. Whether this becomes a turning point for the continent depends on who this captain really is and what's actually inside that factory. Ibrahim Traoré's path to the presidency began far from the barracks. Born on March 14, 1988, in the village of Kira, he spent his youth studying geology at the University of Ouagadougou. This background in earth sciences, understanding the raw mineral wealth buried beneath Sahelian soil, preceded his decision to join the National Army in 2009. Traoré earned a commission as a lieutenant in 2014, eventually deploying to Mali with the United Nations peacekeeping mission, MINUSMA. By September 2022, amidst escalating regional security challenges, the 34-year-old captain led the takeover that placed him at the head of state, making him the world's youngest national leader. To understand the driving force behind Burkina Faso's sudden industrial push, one must look at how Traoré positions himself. Rather than simply administering policy as a traditional head of state, he operates as the political engine of a self-declared revolution. In public addresses, he routinely calls for a complete scientific, technological, and industrial revolution. His language deliberately channels the country's historical memory, explicitly framing industrial development as an act of resistance against economic dependency. During a national broadcast, Traoré declared that the nation is engaged in a progressive people's revolution, asserting that technological self-reliance is the ultimate defense against foreign influence. This message resonates strongly with a country that has long equated domestic manufacturing with national survival. In the 1980s, under the leadership of Captain Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso adopted a philosophy of total self-reliance, urging citizens to manufacture what they needed and reject foreign aid. Sankara famously insisted that a self-reliant nation must consume only what it can produce, establishing state-run workshops to build local machinery. Although Sankara's presidency was brief, the conviction that a nation must produce its own goods remained embedded in the public consciousness. When Traoré revived state-led industrial initiatives, such as the historical fuel fabrication project known as Sofacov, he taps directly into this collective memory. For many Burkinabe, industrial development carries a weight that transcends simple economics or transport planning. It represents a restoration of national dignity. The push for homegrown technology is seen as an extension of sovereignty, a practical application of the Sankarist ideal that a people cannot be free if they rely entirely on external markets. By framing industrial growth in the language of anti-imperialism, Traoré transforms assembly lines and manufacturing projects from simple economic metrics into symbols of a new African century. The challenge lies in translating this political symbolism into sustained industrial output. In a region facing severe economic and security pressures, the transition from revolutionary speeches to domestic production is a difficult test of national capacity. The political engine has set the direction, but the ultimate success of this sovereign vision depends on whether a state-led program can establish a reliable manufacturing base in the heart of the Sahel. Itaoua began in 2018 as a domestic Burkinabe business producing solar lamps and panels. As regional demand for affordable transport grew, the company undertook an industrial shift toward electric mobility, securing technical assistance from partners in China. This move culminated in January 2025 with the opening of an assembly plant in the Ouaga, 2000 district of Ouagadougou. Led by Director General Abdoulatif Rouamba, the facility immediately began rolling out its first two electric models: the Sahel, a compact crossover, and the native, an urban commuter. The brand soon expanded the lineup to include the Tenakuru and a pickup truck known as the Land Elder. These vehicles are built for the harsh realities of the Sahel rather than luxury expectations. The designs feature reinforced suspensions to handle rough, unpaved roads, along with simplified electronics that allow local mechanics to perform field repairs without highly specialized imported tools. Roof-mounted solar panels supplement the battery system, which is engineered to deliver a claimed 330-kilometer range. Using a grid-based fast charger, the 52 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery can be replenished to 80% in about 30 minutes. Yet, this practical engineering highlights a complex industrial reality. While public marketing highlights a fully local creation, the core technology relies heavily on foreign manufacturing. Underneath the Burkinabe branding, the structural chassis, electric motor, and battery cells are imported as completely knocked-down kits, sharing an identical architecture with the Chinese Dongfeng Nano Box platform. This dependency places the actual local content at an estimated 30 to 40%, consisting primarily of final stage assembly, local labor, and solar accessories. It presents a critical structural tension. Can a nation build true technological sovereignty when its most advanced machines remain anchored to a foreign industrial supply chain? The physical workshop in Ouaga 2000 is only the beginning of a larger industrial strategy. For electric transport to survive in the Sahel, the vehicles must be backed by a stable domestic network of factories, financial backing, and skilled labor. Director General Abdoulatif Rouamba is the operational face of this effort, managing daily tasks on the ground and pushing the company beyond simple assembly towards structured domestic manufacturing. This expansion requires substantial capital. The Burkinabe Economic and Social Development Fund, or FBDES, entered a direct financial partnership with Itaoua Motors SA to fund a new, larger factory extension in Tangin-Dasuri, located just outside the capital. This state-backed investment represents a major government bet on local industrialisation. The goal of the Tangin-Dasuri facility is to scale up vehicle output and gradually begin manufacturing components locally, transforming a private enterprise into a pillar of national policy. But factories require capable hands. Itaoua claims the project will generate thousands of jobs across production, solar assembly, and regional after-sales services. To meet this labor demand, the company is establishing direct training partnerships with Burkinabe vocational schools. These specialized programs are designed to certify young workers as battery technicians and assembly line personnel, teaching them to handle high-voltage lithium-ion cells and electrical systems safely. By integrating technical schools directly with the factory floor, the program frames vehicle assembly as a classroom for industrial learning rather than the final destination. The new factory is intended to serve as a training ground, giving local workers the mechanical and electrical skills required to manage complex clean tech machinery. This training system attempts to build a domestic workforce that can maintain, repair, and eventually design Sahelian vehicles. If successful, this partnership will do more than build cars. It will establish the foundation of a modern industrial culture in Burkina Faso. An electric vehicle in the Sahel is fundamentally an energy project before it is a transport solution. In Burkina Faso, where the national power grid faces routine outages, keeping these vehicles on the road requires looking past the standard plug. The Itaoua vehicles rely on a 52 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery designed to cover 330 kilometers. Achieving this performance depends entirely on how that battery draws its power. To bypass the unstable electrical grid, developers rely on solar-assisted charging. Roof-mounted panels provide a continuous trickle of power, while pilot projects look to integrate solar-powered microgrids. These local microgrids combine photovoltaic arrays, wind turbines, and supercapacitors to supply energy in off-grid locations. To manage highly variable renewable inputs, researchers are testing systems that use a 4-phase interleaved boost converter and a fractional order PID controller. This technology protects the vehicle's battery from sudden power surges during a 30-minute fast charge, allowing operators to safely replenish the system to 80% without relying on the central grid. But physical survival in the Sahel also demands long-term planning for the batteries themselves. High ambient temperatures degrade lithium-ion cells rapidly, making thermal management and field repairability essential. While the vehicles feature simplified electronics, so local mechanics can swap modular battery packs, the country still lacks a publicly established official recycling system to handle these components at the end of their life cycle. Without a clear plan for second-life battery usage or safe disposal, the environmental and economic promise of electric mobility remains tied to a looming waste management challenge. The line between a symbolic technology and a practical transit network will ultimately be decided on the dirt roads where these energy systems must survive, rather than inside a showroom. On the crowded streets of Ouagadougou, the success of this industrial experiment is measured not in pristine engineering laboratories, but on the daily balance sheets of local transport operators. While the global market often treats electric vehicles as premium luxury items, Burkina Faso's initiative targets the backbone of the Sahelian economy: taxi drivers, delivery networks, and smallholder logistics. The Compact Sahel model enters the market at an estimated price between $7,000 and $8,000. This price point, combined with low operational overhead, is designed to make clean transit accessible to everyday workers who previously could not afford imported vehicles. A full charge costs less than $6, which is markedly cheaper than the fuel required for a comparable combustion engine. Over a 5-year horizon, this dramatic reduction in running costs offers transport operators a massive ownership advantage, transforming electric mobility from a premium environmental ideal into an immediate economic necessity. This shift does more than lower individual expenses; it directly shields the wider national economy. Burkina Faso has historically relied on costly refined petroleum imports, which drain valuable foreign exchange reserves. By substituting imported fuel with domestic, solar-assisted electricity, the program keeps capital circulating within the country, strengthening local markets and directly funding community development. The practical proof of this concept lies with the urban transit networks and small business cooperatives already adopting the vehicles. In a region where high transportation costs directly inflate the price of food, medicine, and basic household goods, making mobility cheaper is a powerful tool for social equity. Ultimately, this approach defines national sovereignty through everyday affordability rather than prestige branding. By prioritizing transport guilds and local merchants, the state positions domestic vehicle assembly as a driver of grassroots economic survival. But beneath the celebratory public rollouts and national pride lies a more demanding industrial reality. As these vehicles begin operating on the streets of Ouagadougou, automotive experts and trade analysts are examining the true origin of the machines. On automotive forums and among industry watchdogs, critics point directly to the vehicle's structural architecture. The physical dimensions, the interior layout, and the underlying mechanical frame are identical to the Dongfeng Nanobox, a mass-produced Chinese electric city car. This technological overlap exposes the division between ground-up creation and final-stage assembly. While the brand is marketed as a domestic triumph, the core engineering, including the electric motor, the primary battery cells, and the electronic control units, originates in Chinese factories. This leaves the actual local manufacturing contribution at an estimated 30 to 40%, consisting of final assembly work, paint, and local solar accessories. This reliance on imported completely knocked-down kits raises immediate concerns about safety and standardization. To date, the manufacturer has not published official safety crash test ratings, type approval data, or formal homologation certificates. In most established markets, vehicles must undergo rigorous, independent safety evaluations to certify occupant protection and electronic stability before entering public use. For Burkina Faso, where the regulatory framework for electric mobility is still under development, this lack of transparent testing creates a credibility gap. Without internationally recognized certifications, exporting these vehicles to broader regional markets remains highly difficult. The Ministry of Industry positions the project as an import substitution success that protects foreign exchange reserves. But safety regulators warn that domestic assembly lines must meet the same strict standards applied to imported global brands. The industrial transition also faces immediate financial bottlenecks. Transforming a modest assembly workshop into a self-sustaining industrial system requires immense capital. While the state-backed Economic and Social Development Fund, called FBDES, has stepped in to finance the physical expansion in Tanghin Dasuri, the broader project remains highly dependent on government subsidies and state procurement. Independent economic assessments indicate that establishing domestic component manufacturing, such as fabricating chassis parts or pressing body panels locally, demands investments that far exceed current public allocations. Without private venture capital or foreign direct investment, the plan to scale production to 5,000 units annually faces severe constraints. Skeptics warn that a reliance on state subsidies and foreign components risks turning the project into a high-profile political showcase rather than a viable business. The real test for Burkina Faso is whether the country can construct a complete, self-sustaining industrial system around these vehicles before state funding runs thin. In the global race for clean transit, where giants like BYD and Toyota deploy billions of dollars in capital, regional assembly plants must move rapidly from basic packaging to genuine technological development. For Burkina Faso, the window to turn a political symbol into an independent industrial powerhouse is remarkably narrow. The true test of Burkina Faso's electric vehicle ambition isn't just where the parts are sourced. It is whether a nation can successfully rewrite its economic destiny on its own terms. The demand for technological sovereignty is now real, and the entire continent is watching. The era of passive importing is ending. What do you think of this shift? Share your thoughts below.